Hey, Sam.
Hi, Bev. How's it going?
Happy Easter.
Happy Easter!
Yay.
Ooh, beer before noon on Easter.
That feels a little sacrilegious, perhaps.
No. At the Last Supper, Jesus said, "Drink this in remembrance of me." So, and it was wine, I think. So we're just drinking beer. So it's not sacrilegious.
Well, I'm drinking a raspberry ale, so that kind of counts as wine, right?
Ooh, that sounds delicious.
Sort of.
Where is that from?
It's from Dark Horse Brewery,
Hmm.
which is in Marshall, Michigan. So I
Yes.
believe this is another one that you brought me.
Yes, that sounds correct. And I've been to that brewery before. Well, their little, just their little store. I didn't go into like the tap room or anything. They have some really good beers.
Yeah, I'm excited about this one. Plus, I love the art on it. It's got like this, I was going to call it a cute little bee, but he's not cute. He's kind of an angry bee.
I mean, sometimes people say I look cute when I'm angry. So
Fair enough. And he's like heading towards a raspberry. So I don't know. I
Aw.
liked it. It's cool artwork. What are you drinking?
So I was feeling inspired by one that you had when we did the mini-sode with Chickens Matter. So I grabbed a Great Blake's coffee infused hard cider. And you had that, like I said, when we recorded a few weeks ago. And I actually had my very first Great Blake's cider when I did Painting with a Twist on Thursday, and it was the habanero mango one, which was delicious. So when I was at my favorite beer place yesterday, I had to snag another Great Blake's because it is delicious. And I do really like this. This is a good one to drink before noon.
Yeah, because it's like coffee flavored. I should have totally grabbed a coffee beer. I didn't have any though, or at least not any that I could drink. We've got this really cool one. It's called Cinnamon Toast Brunch by what is it? Wolf's Ridge Brewing in Columbus. But my husband wouldn't let me open it because we're saving it to like drink with friends. And I'm like, we should have gotten 3 bottles of this because I really need to drink this on the podcast.
You need it. You need it. Oh my gosh, that sounds so good.
Yeah, it tastes exactly like coffee kolsch, but a little more cinnamony. Yeah, so it's
great.
my like new favorite beer that I can actually get a hold of in Ohio.
You know, sometimes you just got to find a suitable replacement.
Right?
But never replace me. Like, as I said that, I was like, never replace me.
You're not replaceable. Never, ever, ever replaceable.
Ugh.
Welcome to We Drink and We Farm Things.
Yay! That's Bev over there.
And that's Sam over there.
And this is a farm comedy podcast that is an adult happy hour for your ears.
We drink adult beverages, talk about the ups and downs of farming things, and give 0 clucks about not having the perfect farm life.
We want to create a community for farmers, whether you have a hobby farm or a huge farm. We want you to come listen and to feel like you're not alone in this farm thing.
We keep it real with you and find humor in the mistakes we make, new knowledge we gain, and sometimes we go off on tangents that are non-farming related.
And speaking of those tangents, we sometimes record those and put them up on Patreon. So you can go listen to those BS sessions for free. Go to patreon.com/drinkandfarm. And all listeners can go there and listen to those BS sessions for free.
And if you are one of our Patreons, you get access to some exclusive content, outtakes, funky things that Sam and I have recorded together. There's a whole mess of fun things out there. Plus, we send out some gifts to the $5 level and above people a few times a year. And I have the gifts for, what was it, end of March?
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. End of March. I have them. They're starting to get packaged up and they will get put in the mail on Monday. So you'll probably have them before this episode drops. So I probably didn't need to tell you about it. Yeah, well.
But I mean, you know, just in case, you know, something happens and they're there on Saturday.
Oh, fair
just
enough.
be excited, you know, that they're coming.
And they won't think that we forgot about them because we didn't.
Right.
It just, we have so many Patreons now that it takes a little longer to package them up than it used to.
We need an intern.
It's a good problem to have. I'm not complaining. I just, you know, have some grace for me. There we go.
Yes.
That's all I'm asking for.
Yes. And speaking of our Patreons, this week's drinks are sponsored by Jessica Hawkins,
which is at It's Just the Hot Mess on Instagram.
AKA Bev's friend. Woo!
That's right. Bev's oldest friend.
Like old in years or?
No, we've been friends since I was 4.
Wow. That's commitment.
It is. It's like 31 years.
Ugh, wow.
I totally aged myself for everybody.
You did. If you're good at math, or even if you're just bad at math, you might be able to pull out a calculator.
Right, and figure out how old Bev is. I'm 35. I have had a friend for 3 decades.
That's crazy.
I have never felt older in my entire life now.
I don't think I have one of those. Because I grew up with my cousins. So
well, your cousins are usually your oldest friends.
Yes.
So that's normal.
But I have no non-relative friends from 4 years old.
Yeah, I mean, in all fairness, it's hard to make friends as a 4-year-old. Like,
it's hard to make friends, period.
Right? It's even harder to make friends as an adult. Hence why we have this podcast.
Yes. And hence why I was so much like, okay, yes, the stranger from the internet wants me to do a podcast with her. Okay.
That sounds fun. Thank you for liking me, weird lady.
Thanks for stalking me on YouTube and Instagram.
Yes.
I think it's worked out pretty well, though. So
yeah, I think so too. I would agree with that. So I have a corrections corner on a corrections corner. And I'm pretty sure this is the first time this has happened to us.
Yes.
It's episode 59, so it's hard to say. We've recorded like 59 hours of us just like doing this thing. And I cannot remember all of them. But anyhow, last week I was correcting myself on, I had called a halter a bridle, but during the correction corner last week, I was calling a halter a harness, which is not correct.
Yeah.
I mean, thankfully, I sort of self-corrected myself because I did correctly refer to it as a halter later on in the episode. But it didn't matter. During that whole like tirade about the differences between a bridle and a halter, I said harness like no less than a dozen times. I'm positive.
But you know what? I again just said, yep, I believe you, Bev. That sounds right.
I mean, in all fairness, we had this conversation last night with some friends about how it doesn't matter what you say, as long as you say it with some authority, people are going to believe you unless they actually like know.
Yes.
For sure.
Oh my God.
In that exact moment.
Yes.
So, I mean, in real life, I don't think I ever project confidence. So the fact that I do it on the podcast makes me feel pretty good about myself. I'll take it.
Yes. And I believe somebody did like graciously kind of jump in on the group and say, Bev, I hate to do this to you, but it was funny because as soon as you started editing this, you like texted me like, damn it. I
came this close. You can't see my fingers, but they're like super close together. I came this close to just cutting the whole thing and doing the corrections corner over again this week. And then I had just listened to our intro, though, about how we laugh about the mistakes we make and talk about the new knowledge we gain. And I was like, no, this is another one of those like good learning moments. I can't totally censor myself every time I make a mistake because that's not the point of this.
It's not authentic. No.
It's not. Yeah, it's just like pretending that I know things that I don't. And I say the wrong words all the time. That's the thing about vocabulary. Like, words are weird.
Yes. They are.
And halter and harness sound a lot alike. But anyways, a harness is the thing, like the full getup that you put on a horse or a donkey or whatever equine you happen to have, zebra, I don't know, there's a few different ones, to pull a cart. So there actually is a harness. That is a thing.
Yes. Just not what we meant.
We meant halter. I got that right? Halter?
Yes.
Okay, good. We're going to stop this before I start mixing the words up again.
So how are things with Herc going?
So I wish I could pretend like things with Herc are all rainbows and sunshine all the time.
Mm.
But I cannot. We are having some food aggression issues.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, and they have gotten so serious that he actually bit me the other day.
Ow.
Yeah, it hurt really bad. He's been sort of mouthy and rude with me the last week, and I didn't really think anything of it. I'm kind of a pushover in real life. So it's not surprising whatsoever that the donkey is like pushing me over.
He
I mean,
senses it.
he does. He totally senses it. And he figured out that when I'm going in there, like in the morning and in the evening with a little scooper full of food, that it's something exciting and delicious that he really wants to get in on also.
Oh.
Yeah. And thinking back on it, I should have realized that he was going to be smart enough to recognize that. Because, like, donkeys don't require that kind of feed. Like, they're totally fine just eating like grass or grass hay if there's not grass available.
Mm-hmm.
But the goats require just a tad more nutrition, especially if they're like lactating goats or pregnant goats. So you need to, like give them something a little more high quality. And the grain is like good for energy and to get their rumens, like doing its fermenting thing and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Not that it's super required for goats either, but my goats are used to it. They're kind of bougie. So I do feed them twice a day, and Herc's been like nosing my arm, and I was like kind of just like pushing him away. And then finally he got so mad at me that I wasn't letting him in to eat that he just like reared back and bit me.
Oh.
And luckily I was wearing my Carhartt, so it didn't hurt super bad. But he chased me out of the pasture.
Oh my
So when
God.
he bit me, I was like, oh my God, he just bit me. Like, is he going to hurt me even worse? So I just started running. And that's probably not the right thing to do either, because of course he chased me.
You had your flight or fight moment.
I did. And I was super embarrassed about it. Like, I got out and I was like, that was really dumb. All of those things were wrong. Like, I knew better than that. So Herc needs a little training. I need a little training. But, when you get a new animal, I think that's kind of to be expected.
Yeah.
Like, even something as easy as a donkey, right? I mean, not that they're...
Well, I wouldn't call it easy, but I think it's I wouldn't call the animal easy. I think it's easy to oversimplify their instincts and emotions sometimes. It's like, I've been bit by a goat before and that doesn't feel good. I can't imagine being bit by a donkey and not really expecting it. So I don't think you should be so hard on yourself, for running out of there, because it was your natural instinct to do that, just like it was his instinct to bite you.
Yeah. Well, and I was just thinking to myself, I was like, wait, easy wasn't exactly the word. Like, he's an easy animal in that he doesn't require a ton of like care. He's not super picky like a horse.
Yeah.
Horses are like a little more involved as far as their care goes.
Yes.
But like all animals require some sort of like training or getting to know. Like, they've got to learn how to behave, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because otherwise, like, they get to just be their wild selves and do whatever the heck they want to, which is nice. But like, he needs to have some manners.
Yes, he does.
So we're working on that. He lets me halter him.
That's good.
Like, pretty easily, which is super great. And so I've got it on him right now. I leave it on during the day so that every time I go out there, I can clip the lead rope to him so I can like teach him some ground manners to like get out of my personal space and stuff. So I have to give a huge thank you to Elise, because she showed me, or she recorded herself making one of her horses give her some personal space. And I realized that I was like totally doing it wrong when I was leading Herc around and stuff. I was just giving him too much room and too much leeway. So he could do whatever he wanted and he could like bully me around.
Okay.
But if I stay like at his shoulder and I keep my hand under his chin with like a good grip on the lead rope, then I can push his head away when he starts to go towards biting me. And I can use my body to like correct him and make him go the direction I want him to go. And then when he follows my instructions, I give him a treat and tell him how good he is and give him all sorts of positive attention. And because he's a donkey, he'll catch on really fast because he's smart.
Mm-hmm.
So that'll be nice. Plus, he's getting gilded next week. When I was doing some research on training donkeys, a ton of stuff I came across just said, don't bother training a jack.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think it's because their hormones just have the ability to get the best of them,
Mm.
which kind of makes some sense. So I'm still going to keep working with him. I mean, it's
Well,
another like
yeah.
6 days before he gets gelded, thankfully.
Right. And I don't think what you're doing now will be a total loss because at least then he'll be used to this kind of routine that you're creating. And then
Yeah,
if he's gelded and that helps with the hormones, like, I think it'll work itself out faster than you think.
I think so too. So I'm looking forward to next week when that's all done. And yeah, I mean, I'll obviously keep everybody up to date, but I realized I had to share that because, like, on Instagram, like it always looks like everything's like all easy and
Right. Like
happy.
everybody should get a donkey right now. Sam wants a donkey.
I mean, donkeys are fun. I think everybody should get a donkey, but you have to, like, I have to be trained as well. Like, it's not just him because
Mhm.
I don't know how to take care of equines. Like, it's totally different than dealing with a goat or any other animals that we have
Oh,
here.
for
So,
sure. But that's just another good example of our group on Facebook just jumping in to help, you
oh,
know?
I know. They're
So
so
that is
awesome.
just so cool. Yeah. So plug to the group, go join it because you're just going to learn stuff from other people that you probably don't necessarily need to learn, but it's still kind of fun.
It is. I like knowing farm stuff for the sake of
Yeah.
knowing farm stuff.
Back on a Saturday morning in July 2015, Tina's family gathered around the family dog and opened a subscription box they ordered full of treats and toys. Later that day, her 8-year-old daughter asked, "Wouldn't it be cool if our chickens got their own box of treats?"
That question stuck with Tina, and after some research, Henny and Rue was launched, or should I say hatched, in October of 2015.
Henny and Rue boxes make the perfect gift for you or the chicken keeper in your life. Each box includes poultry first aid items, a few other chicken surprises like treats or other things that can make your chicken keeping easier, and there is also a gift or two for the chicken keeper.
With each item being carefully selected by a chicken keeper and her family, you can feel good about being sent items that you and your flock will love.
Go to hennyandrue.com and use code DRINKANDFARM at checkout to get 15% off your first subscription box.
Okay, so I did something that is gonna sound super crazy and weird if it's something that you've never heard of.
Mm-hmm.
But I added some goldfish to the water trough to keep the water clean.
That is hilarious. And I was talking to my husband about this and I told him what we were going to talk about this morning. And he just looks at me when I told him this and he's like, "Yeah, I knew that." And I'm like, "How did I not know this?"
Well, I had never heard of it until when I went to go check out Herc at my neighbor's farm. He had mentioned it because we were talking about water because he has like a big creek kind of running through his pasture.
Okay.
So he does have some water troughs, but for the most part, unless it's like a really dry season, the creek is full of water. So the cows and the donkeys can go partake in that.
Mm,
But I don't have that here.
right.
Our pasture is totally dry. So all of our water has to be like put in buckets or a giant trough. And the goats are fine with like a couple of 5-gallon buckets kind of strewn around.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not enough for a donkey.
Right.
So we had to buy like a real stock tank.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Look at you moving on up in the world.
I know, right? The only thing is like, you got to keep a stock tank clean because they're really big and heavy to like dump over and clean out. Plus, you create like this really giant muddy mess.
Right.
Unless you're gonna like drag it somewhere else to dump it, and I mean they're freaking heavy. It sounds hard.
Yes,
It sounds
does.
really hard. So, Jared went and bought me some goldfish yesterday. And we put it in the stock tank. But, so before you go out and add a bunch of fish to your tank, there's definitely some things that you need to keep in mind about doing it.
Okay.
So we're going to go over some of those first before I tell you all about how it's going.
Okay.
The number one thing is that more fish don't equal a cleaner tank. So 2 goldfish in a 55-gallon tank is often plenty. If you put too many fish in the stock tank, it will lead to ammonia buildup, which is kind of like an unhealthy living environment for them, and nasty, grody, disgusting drinking water for your animals.
Totally fair.
Yeah, so not too many fish.
Right.
And also, you have to ease your fish into their new home that is the stock tank. You know, you've ever heard that thing, like, don't just dump your new goldfish that you get, like, from the carnival into a bucket of water, or it'll, like, shock them and kill them.
Right.
You got to, like, put the bag into the water, let their water inside the bag equal the temperature of the stock tank, and then let them free. The only problem with that is that if you have goats, your goats are curious little MFers. And they will grab the bag and try to take it out of the stock tank so they can play with it, which is not good for your fish.
So how did you prevent that?
I had to just stand guard. I could not distract them with anything else.
Oh my God.
They saw that thing floating in there and they were insistent that it was something awesome for them, and they wanted it. And they just kept like nibbling at it, which was kind of funny at first. And then I was like, if they puncture this bag, like, it's not going to be good for the fish. Because I asked my husband, I'm like, can I just puncture the bag so that it floats to the bottom? And then they'll get used to, you know, like the temperature, and then I can cut them out. He's like, well, I'm pretty sure that giant bubble of water is, or that giant bubble of air is in there so that they can live.
Oh.
Because, you know, they need oxygen.
Right.
Not that they like come to the surface and like breathe, but like the oxygen inside the bag helps keep the water oxygenated, I think. I don't know.
Science?
Maybe
we'll correct ourselves next week. We don't know. We'll find out.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure someone will correct us if that's
yeah,
wrong. Maybe, I don't
know. I guess I've never questioned why the bags weren't filled all the way before.
Yeah, I never have either. So it seems reasonable.
Yeah.
Also, you can't feed your goldfish. If you feed the goldfish, there's just going to be too much food in the stock tank for them, and it's going to be all nasty and gross and mucky.
Okay.
Yeah, I know it sounds super mean to not feed them, but they're perfectly fine living off of the algae that grows on the bottom of the tank, and like little bugs and things kind of like fly into the water and get stuck. They'll eat all that stuff.
Okay.
They also eat mosquitoes and mosquito larvae. Hooray!
Hooray! That is exciting.
Right?
Yes.
So it keeps your stock tank from becoming like mosquito breeding grounds. And for the best chance of fish survival, the water temperature should be at least 60 degrees. That's what the internet says. Our stock tank isn't that warm yet, and they're doing just fine.
Good.
And my neighbor says that his fish survive all winter when the stock tanks just like freeze over.
So does that debunk the whole air in the bag thing if it's iced over?
I mean, maybe. That's totally possible. So something that I read on the internet said that they kind of hibernate during the winter when it gets super cold, because like the water's really cold. So they're cold-blooded creatures, so they're not moving around as much.
Yeah.
So they might not require as much oxygen, you know, like in the wintertime while they're not moving around, which perhaps that's how it goes. But anyways, we can't let our stock tanks freeze over because like our animals need water to survive all winter.
Yeah.
So we're going to just like throw a little like pond de-icer in there, or like a little heater of some kind to like keep the water moving, and that'll keep it warm enough for the fish to survive. Because another point that this article made was that when the fish are small, you should take them inside before the first frost. We're not going to do that.
Yeah.
I don't want to take care of goldfish inside the house all winter.
And I don't mean to sound cruel. And if somebody from PETA is listening, they're going to hate me. But it's like, if it does not go well, it's a goldfish and it'll be pretty cheap to replace.
Yeah, we got ours for $2.99 for a dozen.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I mean, you can probably find them for cheaper than that, maybe, but that was what we ended up with, so we took it.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll also want to add a couple of bricks or rocks into the bottom of the tank so that the fish have somewhere to hide and find shade. Because, you know, like when the wild birds find out that there's fish in there, they might be hanging out around your stock tank to try to take the fish out.
Touche.
I mean, hopefully the donkey will keep the wild birds away, but you know, you never know.
Just in case.
Well, and I'm imagining that like when the chickens are in there, if I ever do get around to putting the chickens inside the pasture, the minute the chickens find out that there are goldfish that they can pluck out of the water, they're going to be lined up on the edge of the stock tank, just like bobbing for fish.
Yeah. I was just thinking about that with ducks. Like, if they ever, like, especially the Muscovies, because they'll perch.
Yeah.
That would be difficult to figure out how to avoid.
Yeah, that would be super rough.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of keeping your fish's habitat reasonable for them, you also have to keep the trough filled regularly. So don't let the animals drink it down near the bottom before you refill it, because, you know, your fish need oxygen and room to move around.
Yes.
It's like adding another farm animal to your farm, but it's goldfish.
Yes, exactly. It's another animal to manage.
It is. It's another animal to manage. And after a while, you might notice that your goldfish have multiplied, which just means they're thriving.
Interesting. I didn't even think of that.
Yeah. I mean, it at least means that you ended up with some males and females and they're doing their thing.
Yeah, which makes total sense.
Yeah, it totally does. So if you find that you have some extras, this article recommended that you bring them in a tank inside to have for backups. I don't want a fish tank. I don't know why. It's not like I'm anti-fish tank. It's just one more thing I have to keep clean and take care of.
Yeah.
And another animal I have to remember to feed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
You could always give the extras to the chickens as treats. I mean, I won't judge anybody for that.
No. See, that's when you do want ducks, but then you just want to make sure that they don't associate that tank with an ever reproducing supply of fish.
Yeah, that doesn't seem like it would be good. It's funny. We had one of the fish died, so we have 11 left. That's not so bad though. I knew some of them would die.
Right.
But we forgot to buy one of those little like dip net scooper things. And I saw it. It's at the bottom of the tank. And I told my husband, I was like, I'm going to wait until it warms up a little bit before I reach my hand in there and dig it out. Because it's kind of cold and I didn't want to like go elbow deep.
That's fair.
So that's what I'm doing this afternoon in case anyone's curious.
Yes. You'll have to let us know how that goes.
Yeah. And the last thing you really need to keep in mind is never, ever, 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 ever put goldfish in a body of water that they can end up in like a creek or a stream or a lake or any other like natural body of water that's like out in the public realm because they're super invasive.
Oh, yeah, there's that.
Yeah, and they get really big. Yeah, and they live like for a ridiculous amount of time if they're well taken care of. Mm-hmm. So like a wild goldfish population can just like totally take out an ecosystem.
Yeah, so let's not do that.
Yeah, so don't do that. Keep them in a stock tank somewhere where like if it rains so hard that it overflows and fish get out, they just, you know, end up flopping around in the mud and then expiring rather than ending up in like a local waterway.
Yes.
So I already told you that I have 12 fish. I'm not really sure how big my stock tank is. I tried to like look on the labels and stuff, and there isn't one on it that tells me, but I think it's around 40 gallons. So right now I have far too many fish in there. It's like gonna be like fish water world under there.
I wonder though, like it would probably end badly. But you know how, like, for my chickens, I have the over-the-head nipple waterer things?
Oh, yeah.
I wonder if you could put some, like, goldfish in one of those.
Well...
But then I'm afraid, like, that I'm just going to notice that the chickens are out of water and the poor fish is dead. So that's probably not a good plan.
Yeah, you're like, what's that smell?
And, you know, definitely, because I was trying to think, what would I do with that many fish if I had an overabundance? And nothing would work here other than just, you know, buying another stock tank.
Yeah, and that's totally possible. Like right now we only have one stock tank. I would like to have more than one because, we've got the 5 goats and we've got the donkey, and I'm hoping that the goats will multiply eventually.
Yeah.
And then who knows? I don't know. Maybe we'll get another donkey. I was asking my friend last night. You met Nate, our neighbor. He came
Yeah.
over and he's like, and he was petting Herc. And I was like, all right, Nate, now that we've got Herc the donkey, what's next on the list? And his eyes get like really big and excited. And he's like, I don't know. And I'm like, a llama. And he's like, a camel.
Oh my God. I feel like a llama's probably a little more attainable.
I think so too. But Jared looked at him and he's like, no, not a camel. And he's like, how about another donkey? I was like, yeah, I could do another donkey.
Yeah, there you go.
So we're already plotting for more animals. So yeah, I guess
good.
As they multiply or as I end up with too many fish, I'll just move them to more stock tanks.
There you go.
Can't go wrong with that.
Not only are you doing it for the podcast, you're doing it for the sake of the fish to have a good life.
That's true, right? So it's like totally like altruistic.
Yes.
There we go. Yeah, so I have so many fish because I'm expecting several to not make it. I've already told you one didn't make it, but there's going to be more because while fish are super hardy, some of them are super not hardy.
Correct.
So there's going to be a few more. They're not floating fish when they die. They sink to the bottom. I would have preferred it floated because I could have gotten it out a little easier, but
Easier to maintain.
Right. And also fish aren't that bright, and I've heard that they'll get curious and swim up to the surface when they see an animal put their mouth in to drink. So I'm expecting a few to just disappear.
It's totally fair.
Yeah. And my husband asked me, are they going to hurt the goats? Because, like goats are ruminant animals, so they're not meat eaters.
Right.
But people put these in their cow stock tanks and they're ruminants. So I'm going to say that it's going to be all right.
Probably a little bit of fish probably never hurt anybody unless you're like allergic to fish.
Yeah, and we'll find out if one of the goats is allergic to fish. It'll be very sad.
Oh, yeah.
I've never heard of a goat with a seafood allergy, but,
No.
There's always something new.
I'm sure that we've heard of goats with gluten allergies before.
Oh, that's true. I mean, I've heard of dogs with gluten allergies.
So, yeah. So, if they could be allergic to gluten, I mean, I don't know. It's totally possible.
Peanut butter. And you can totally skip the fish and just sprinkle a little First Saturday lime in your tank to keep the algae down if you don't want to have another animal to take care of. I really just did this like for fun and for the podcast because I wanted to talk about it.
And I mean, this is like an easy thing to talk your husband into for the podcast. The donkey took a while.
Yes.
It did take a while. But the fish, that happened like within a couple days.
Yeah, it totally did. Well, and it was so funny. He texted me. He's in town yesterday and he's like, how many fish do you want? And I was like, it's kind of a small tank. Get me like 5 or 6. And then he comes home with a giant bag of them. And he's like, they only came in dozens. I'm like, oh, geez. I'm like, well, we'll put them all in there.
We'll have a little experiment.
We'll see what happens. So next week I'll get to follow up on how the fish are faring. We'll see.
Yeah. Should we take bets?
Yeah, we can take bets. I mean, I totally thought about naming them all so that we could figure out which ones would live. They all look different. It was kind of insane. One of them looks like he has like a little mohawk.
Aw, how fun.
They're all a couple different colors. I'll have to take some pictures of them. I'll put them in the little swipey slide thing that we put on the Instagram about this episode so you can check out our newest animals.
So we don't really have a listener farm story this week, but since we're recording on Easter Sunday, we thought it would be interesting to continue the theme of donkeys and talk about why donkeys have that cross marking on their back.
Yeah, this is super interesting and fun.
So Bev found this really great article that shares both like the religious and scientific thoughts on how the donkey got its cross on its back. And it turns out like nobody like for sure actually knows. But the article pointed out, that you've seen donkeys in movies like Shrek, and, you know, there's a donkey in Winnie the Pooh, and sometimes they're cast as like unassuming, stubborn, and sometimes a little dim-witted. Donkeys actually have a very rich history as real-life heroes of agriculture, town planning, and religion. So yay for donkeys.
Yes. I mean, we knew they were special, right?
Yes. Obviously, because like we've been waiting for you to get one for over a year now. So
True.
So we'll start with the religious aspect. So for those of you who might not know this story, I kind of knew it, but not in total, like from beginning to end necessarily. But it is said that, you know, when Jesus was carrying his cross to the mount, a little donkey tried to help him, but couldn't get through the crowd. So when the crowd dispersed, the little donkey went up to Jesus and he stood behind the cross. And as the sun went down, the shadow of the cross fell across the donkey, and now every donkey has a cross. Which kind of just goes like, whether you're religious or not, I think that's just kind of like a nice story.
Yeah, I totally agree.
So the donkey is actually the only animal in the Bible other than the serpent to speak, which if you're like a donkey talked, what the hell? Go to Numbers 22, or you can just Google like a donkey speaking in the Bible. Because I mean, I was raised as, you know, going to church and stuff, and I didn't even know that story. It's kind of cool. So go Google it if you're interested.
Yeah, I'll have to Google that too, because I haven't heard of that one either, and I totally was as well.
The donkey like saves somebody's life because he's just present, essentially.
Oh.
But if you want more details, definitely go look at it.
Okay, I'm going to.
And you know, the donkey actually plays a significant role in more than one Christian prophecy. So donkeys have it going on. It's also said that the use of donkey in the Bible is to help people understand that Jesus was normal, like a normal person. He wasn't, well, I wouldn't necessarily call him a normal person, but he wasn't born into privilege. And because the previous emphasis was always on like Jesus being, you know, God's son, it's a symbol to like show that he was like among the people and of the people.
Yeah.
So not only can you tie the donkey story back to, you know, the cute little story we told in the beginning, it's also important to note that the donkey is used as Jesus's triumphant entry into Jerusalem the week before his, you know, resurrection. But according to the prophecy of Zechariah, the king would come riding into Jerusalem on a donkey. So Jesus totally knew his audience. The leaders of that day know that prophecy, and when they see him doing that, they probably shit themselves a little bit.
Just a tiny bit.
And Jesus actually tried to challenge the leaders of the temple before the crucifixion based on him riding in on a donkey. And it was after that he was arrested. And then obviously there was the death and resurrection. So also something that I kind of connected the dots to this morning when I was doing this research was that Mary may have rode around on a donkey from Nazareth to Bethlehem, which is a 70 to 80 mile journey, before she gave birth to Jesus. It's speculated that Joseph wouldn't have been able to afford like a camel or a horse, but could you imagine riding a camel when you're preggo? Yikes. I think I would have taken the donkey over the camel any day while I'm like ready to pop.
I don't think I could have fit like, you know, in between the humps on a camel when I was pregnant. Wait, do camels only have one hump or do they have two? Or...
I think it depends on the camel, but you have a big hump in front of you. So either way.
Either way, it's not going to be the comfiest of journeys.
Right. So it doesn't like come out and say necessarily that, yes, Mary rode around on a donkey, but it's assumed because of their social determinants that, you know, Joseph wasn't totally broke. He could afford a donkey, but he couldn't afford like a fancy cart and horse situation or a camel.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. I mean, we already talked about how horses are like totally bougier than donkeys.
Oh, for sure.
Yep. They require just a little more maintenance.
Yeah.
They're a little more high class.
So I think like I kind of knew the story with the whole cross shadow thing, but in my mind, maybe in my own interpretation, I always thought of Mary riding the donkey and the cross symbolizing that, like, from beginning to end of, Jesus's story.
Yeah, and I knew about that. I knew about that as being one of the reasons for why a donkey had a cross on it, but I couldn't remember what the story was. So I just like had no idea. Someone had asked me about it last week, why Herc had a cross on his back, and I just said I think like one of the legends or stories behind it was that it's a cross because Jesus used a donkey several times in the Bible, but I couldn't remember what the story was exactly. And I actually really liked that cute little story. I thought it was really sweet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but there might be some potential scientific reasoning as well as to why the donkey has those kind of stripy marks on its back.
Yeah. So the mystery of the donkey's cross is a lot less symbolic in the scientific realm. I mean, obviously. The researchers believe that the same gene that causes a camouflage coloring in modern horses is behind the stripes on the coats of several other animals in the horse family. So like different kinds of zebra, the kulan. Did I pronounce that animal right?
I don't even know what a kulan is.
I don't know either. I'm going to have to Google a kulan. Donkeys and modern horses separated from each other about 3 million years ago, and their common ancestor most likely had some sort of striping or banding. Because, like, you have the full range from the zebras that are striped all over, and then there's the Somali, like, wild asses, which have a dorsal stripe and banding on their legs. And then you also have the donkey, which has the dorsal stripe and the shoulder stripe. So, one of the researchers said that the evidence was not yet concrete, and research has predicted that these primitive markings could have played a role in camouflaging, because they say that if you're standing in the bushes, it's harder to see if you've got stripes on.
Fair enough.
Yeah, fair enough.
When I wear stripes, sometimes it's not super flattering, though. So, I'm a fan of anybody that can pull off stripes.
Yeah, when I wear stripes, I always like to think no one can see me.
Right. Or sometimes I feel like I'm in prison. It's really black and white.
Or sometimes I feel like you can see me too well because I don't look all that great in stripes either.
Oh, and I did happen to Google what a kulan is, and it is a Turkmenian kulan. It's a wild donkey, essentially.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So now we know what that is. It says it's an Asiatic wild ass.
I mean, I'm not going to lie. I was totally expecting to make more ass jokes now that I have a donkey. And so far, I've managed to like keep it down just a tad.
Because you could have said when he bit you, he was such an ass.
Oh, I totally could have. Instead, I called him a jerk face.
Yeah. Well, when you have kids around and stuff, you kind of got to edit it. Like, even the ass jokes might be a little much.
That's true. See, Orion's 13, so he knows that another word for donkey is an ass. So he was kind of testing those waters a little bit when we first got him. And we're like, hey now.
I can see that. That was kind of a funny joke. Hey now.
Oh, it was.
And Sam's almost finished her beer, and everyone can clearly tell.
I love it when I'm funny and I don't even know it.
And I'm just around to point out when you're funny so you can know it.
Yeah, exactly. So Coop Camp dates have been announced. June 7th through 9th. The link is in the show notes.
That is coming up. Holy crap.
Which means that we kind of need to get our shit together and write our workshop. We're teaching a workshop there, in case you didn't know that. It's going to be awesome. So you should come see it because we're not even ready for it.
No. And make sure you take our survey. The link will be in the show notes. It's a way to give anonymous feedback to us, which is always super helpful, and we haven't implemented some of it. So, don't be an ass, but tell us how you feel.
And join our Facebook group, also a place where you're not allowed to be an ass.
Yes. And review us in all of the places. We have taken to reading reviews occasionally on the podcast. So if you review us on iTunes, we might read it. And if you really like us, download the episode when you listen. and hit that subscribe button because those numbers really help us as well.
And we sell merch. There will be a link to both of those shops in the show notes. We have a regular shop on our website, and then we also have a shop somewhere else where they make like cool t-shirts and hoodies and tank tops and camping cups and all sorts of sweet things.
Yes. And we have a hashtag. Use hashtag #DrinkAndFarm on Instagram anytime you are drinking something you love and farming safely. We share them every Tuesday and Thursday, and we'll probably maybe start posting a bunch in the stories too, like we did this past week. So this is your community. We want you to share it with each other.
Yeah. So thanks for listening, guys. We really appreciate you.
Yeah. And this was a fun episode. So we hope you enjoyed it.
Very lighthearted. And once again, Bev and Sam worked on Easter.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know if we can call this working, but...
Also, I don't know if we can call it lighthearted since we did mention the crucifixion. That's kind of dark.
Well, but it is lighthearted because he was resurrected.
Yes. Zombie Jesus Day.
Right?
Cheers.
So drink.
Farm.
And give zero clucks. Bye, guys.
Bye.
We drink things, we farm things, we drink and farm things.
Pamper your chicken from beak to toe with Messy Mildred spa products.
Messy Mildred offers organic chicken shampoos and salty egg bath bombs to keep your flock so fresh and so clean.
Messy Mildred products allow you to pamper your egg layers and on the outside with natural and earth-friendly ingredients that have no synthetic fragrances or colors.
And I found a fun fact about Messy Mildred products. It was the spa product go-to for a Broadway hen in New York City that appeared in the play Once on This Island. So bathe your chickens in what the stars of Broadway's deem worthy.
Ooh, so fancy.
Mm-hmm.
So go to messymildred.com and buy your chicken shampoo in lemongrass, lavender, or tea tree oil today. And don't forget to snag one of those salty egg bath bombs too.